Today I am going to start a lecture about triggers. Uh, what is the basic objective behind learning triggers? We are supposed to discuss the same before proceeding with the lecture. So have a look at the same. So what is the objective of learning triggers in DBMS? Trigger, it is a special type of stored procedure. Stored procedure mean to say it is a procedure in which we are supposed to specify what to do and how to do. In addition, it is a stored procedure that automatically runs when an event occurs in the database server. So DML, that is data manipulation language triggers, run when a user tries to modify the data. Modify the data mean to say he is supposed to manipulate the data. Manipulation language event. So DML events are, it could be insert, update or delete, because as the name implies, manipulation is concerned with three main commands, that is either to insert new record or to update the existing record. It could be to delete the existing record. So these are the three statements that could be executed on a table or a view. Next is the main question is this was the objective of learning trigger. Now what is the main question, that is what is a trigger? So what is basically a trigger in DBMS? We are supposed to learn the same. Trigger is like a procedure that is, it is consist of various rules and instructions that is automatically invoked by the DBMS in response to specified changes to database. So trigger is like a daemon that monitors a database and is executed when the database is modified in a way that matches the event specification. So what is basically a database that we are going to use in trigger? That has a set of associated triggers. It is called an active database. So we are going to basically discuss about what is active database, what are triggers. So unlike a stored procedure, you can enable or disable a trigger. It means you can execute a trigger or you can stop a trigger, but you cannot explicitly explicitly invoke it. Mean to say you are not supposed to clearly invoke it explicitly. In addition, while a trigger is enabled, if it is enabled, the database automatically invokes it. That is the trigger fire. Fire means to say it is going to execute. So whenever its triggering event occur, while a trigger is disabled, it does not execute. Obviously, disabled means to say it is not about to fire. So next is how to create a trigger in database management system. How we can create the trigger in the database management system. So we are supposed to learn the same. What are the practical implementations of the trigger? We are supposed to learn the same. So it is basically, we come to know that it is basically concerned with DML language, that is data manipulation language. So it is a type of, I can say it is a special type of stored procedure that automatically run when an event occurs in the database server. Now, in order to run an event, we are supposed to identify what that event could be. Because DML triggers run when a user tries to modify the data through DML event. So it could be insert, update, or delete statements. So these triggers fire when any valid event fires, whether table rows are affected or not. Whether table rows are affected or not. So basically coming to the main point, that is what are basically DML triggers. So DML trigger is a special type of stored procedure. It is a special type of stored procedure. So what we can do in DML stored procedure, all right, it is concerned with three basic commands, that is insert, update and delete. But what actually happens in DML trigger, it can be used to enforce business rules. As the name implies, stored procedure. So stored procedure is concerned with some rules. So that are business rules and data integrity rules, query other tables that include complex transaction of the SQL statements. Mean to say complex queries could be there that are supposed to perform some kind of transaction on the database. So this is what the database trigger is, or I can say DML trigger is explicitly. So the trigger and the statement that fire it are treated as a single transaction which can be rolled back from within the trigger. So if a swear error is detected, for example, swear error mean to say it could be related to insufficient disk space, then the entire transaction automatically roll back, mean to say it could be roll back or it could have to start again. So next is we are supposed to learn about what are the benefits of DML trigger. That is why we are going to use it now. So what is the benefit of using DML trigger? So first of all, DML triggers, these are similar to constraints. Constraints mean to say there could be certain types of restrictions that could be there, or I can say there could be some constraints on the data to be fetched. There could be some constraints on the data that is to be fetched, so that only a particular data could be acquired by the user, and that too with certain rules that could be associated with it, and those rules could be some constraints. So DML triggers are similar to constraints in that they can enforce entity integrity. Now I am going to discuss about entity integrity. Entity integrity means to say it could be any entity, student entity, employee entity that is stored in the database. So entity integrity could be maintained, physical entity and its integrity could be maintained. Maintained mean to say because we are enforcing it. So entity integrity is the main concept here, or it could be domain integrity, domain that is associated with attributes of the table. So in general, what is entity integrity? It should always be enforced at the lowest level by indexes that are part of the primary key and unique constraints, or these could be created independently of the constraints. So next is domain integrity. What could be the domain integrity? Domain integrity should be enforced through check constraints, because we are supposed to apply constraints on the domain. So that could be possible with the help of check constraints. And referential integrity is must, because if we are talking about relational database management system, because in this we are supposed to relate to tables with the help of the referential integrity. So that is why we are supposed to use three types of integrity: entity integrity, domain integrity, and referential integrity. That should be enforced through foreign key constraints. So I have discussed three benefits of DML trigger. It could be concerned with entity integrity, domain integrity, and referential integrity. The entity integrity is concerned with indexes, or I can say lowest level of the indexes that are concerned with primary key. That is concerned with primary. Entity integrity is concerned with primary key. Domain integrity is concerned with check constraints, and referential integrity, obviously, it is concerned with foreign key. So DML triggers are most useful when the features supported by constraints cannot meet the functions need of the application. So there could be various points that you are supposed to compare, so that there is a list that you can compare DML triggers with constraints and identify when DML triggers have benefits over. So first main point of concern is DML triggers can cascade changes through related tables in the database. Again, I am repeating, cascade changes. DML trigger can cascade changes. Cascade changes we have already discussed in the previous lecture. DML triggers can cascade changes through related tables in the database. That is, however, these changes can be executed more efficiently using cascading referential integrity constraints. For example, if I am talking about referential integrity constraint, then the concept of foreign key come into the picture. So foreign key constraints can validate a column value only with an exact match to a value in the another column, unless the references clause defines a cascading referential action. So this is the main benefit that is to be considered. Second thing could be they can guard against malicious or incorrect insert, update, or delete operations that must be performed, and enforce other restrictions that are more complex than those defined with check constraints. So there is one main note about check constraint, that is, unlike check constraint, DML triggers can reference columns in other tables. So this could be possible only if you are supposed to execute the triggers practically. So DML triggers can reference columns in other tables. For example, I am giving you an example. That is, a trigger can use a select from another table to compare to the inserted or updated data, already inserted or updated data, and it can perform additional actions, for example, to modify the data to display a user defined error message. Now the third point of main concern is they can evaluate the state of a table, they can evaluate the state in which the system is there, either it is partially committed or it is fully committed, or it could be in any other state. So they can evaluate the state of the table before and after the data modification and take action based on the difference, because they have to evaluate first, and after that they are supposed to take any kind of action. So next point is multiple DML triggers of the same type. That is, if I am using insert command, if I am using update command, or I am using delete command. On a table, it could allow multiple different actions to, obviously if I am using different commands, then action could be different. If I am using insert command, then it could not produce the result of the update query. If I am using the update command, then it could not produce the result of the delete query. So result could be according to the command that is being provided. So insert, update, or delete on the table allow multiple different actions to take place in response to the same modification statement. It could be insert, it could be update, or it could be delete. So next main point is constraints can communicate about errors only. Constraints, that is restrictions, can communicate, yes, about errors, but only, but through standardized system error messages. There could be some standard that could be followed for error messages. So they have to follow the same in order to handle the same. So, for example, if your application requires or can benefit from customized messages and more complex error handling, then you must use a trigger. So next is DML triggers can disallow or roll back changes that violate referential integrity, that I have already discussed while I was discussing about DML triggers. So DML triggers can disallow or roll back changes that violate referential integrity. So what does it mean? It means it could cancel the attempted data modifications. Such a trigger might go into effect when you change a foreign key and the new value does not match its primary key. So what would be the result? However, the foreign key constraints are usually used for this purpose, because if we are using about referential integrity, then we are supposed to use the concept of foreign, I can say foreign key. So next, my point of concern regarding benefit is if constraints exist on the trigger table, they are checked after the instead of trigger. I am using instead of trigger execution, but prior to the after trigger execution. Instead of trigger execution, but prior to the after trigger execution. So that if the constraints are violated, the instead of trigger actions are rolled back and the after trigger is not executed. Obviously, that would be the case that instead of triggers could not be, they could be rolled back, and after trigger they could not be executed. So next is you are supposed to have a look at what are the various types of DML trigger. That is, I have used recently after trigger, instead of trigger. So what is after trigger? What is instead of trigger? So I'm going to discuss about the same. What is after trigger? First, after trigger, they are executed after, as the name implies, after trigger. That is, they could be executed after the action of insert, update, merge, or delete statement is performed. So after triggers are never executed if a constraint violation occurs. that we have already encountered in the previous benefit. So therefore these triggers cannot be used for any processing sorry, that might prevent constraints violation. So for every insert, every update, and every delete action that is specified in the merge statement, the corresponding trigger is fired for each DML operation. So that is what the after trigger is. Next is I am going to discuss about instead of trigger. So what is instead of trigger? Instead of trigger override the standard actions of the triggering statement. That is, they can be used to perform problem error. They can be used to perform error or value checking on one or more columns, and they can perform additional actions before insert, updating, or deleting the row or rows. For example, I am giving you an example. When the value being updated in an hourly wage column, when the value being updated in an hourly wage column in a payroll table exceeds a specified value, then a trigger can be defined to either produce an error message or roll back the transaction, or it could be to insert a new record into an audit trail before inserting the record into the payroll table. So the primary advantage of instead of trigger is that they enable views that would not be updatable to support updates. For example, a view based on multiple base tables must use an instead of trigger to support insert, to support updates and deletes that reference data in one or more than one table. So there is one more other advantage, that is, while using instead of triggers, they could enable you to code logic that can reject parts of the batch while letting other parts of the batch to succeed. So this is about two types of trigger, that is after trigger and instead of trigger. In addition, I have discussed about DML triggers. So if you are having any query regarding same, ask me. I am giving you a time of 2 minutes. Have a look at all the slides that have been discussed so far. I am giving you a time of 1 minute. Now I am going to provide you the difference between two types of triggers, that is after trigger and instead of trigger. What would be the function on the behalf of that function? What is the difference between after trigger and instead of trigger? So have a look at the same. First main function of the trigger could be, on which I could determine the difference between the two, could be application, how we can use it. So it is the concern about applicability. So what is applicability? After trigger is applicable on tables, and instead of trigger is applicable on tables as well as views. So this is the main difference between the two. On the behalf of the function of applicability, after trigger is applicable to tables, and instead of trigger is applicable to tables plus views. Next function could be that I am distinguishing is quantity per table or view. Again, I am saying quantity per table or view. After trigger, in that case, multiple per triggering action. Multiple per triggering action. It could be update, it could be delete, or it could be insert. That could be performed. But instead of trigger, one in this multiple, in this one per triggering action, multiple triggering actions could be performed. one per triggering action could be performed. It could be update, it could be delete, or it could be insert. So next is cascading references. Third function on which I am going to distinguish between the two is cascading references. What are cascading references? In after trigger, no restrictions could be applied. After trigger, no restrictions could be applied. But in instead of trigger, instead of update and delete, triggers are not allowed on table that are targets of cascading referential integrity constraints. So next my function is execution. Based on the function of execution, what could happen in after trigger, what could happen in instead of trigger. So just notice what is the difference between the two. On the behalf of execution, I can say that in after trigger, there could be constraint processing, there could be declarative differential actions that could be there, inserted and deleted table creation, or inserted in जो already insert हो चुका है and deleted that is already deleted, table creations could be there. In addition, there is a triggering action that could be performed on the behalf of the execution. But if I am talking about instead of triggers, then there could be various points that are to be considered in the on the behalf of the execution, and that are quite different from the uh, active triggers. So it could be on the base of before constraint processing, it could be the triggering action that could be used, and it could be after inserted and deleted table creations. So these could be the 3 points that are supposed to consider, and these could be distinguished from the after trigger. So next is, now I have discussed about execution point. Now what could be the order of execution in after trigger, and what could be the order of execution in instead of trigger, that we are supposed to determine. The order of execution that could be present in after trigger could be first and last execution may be specified. Again, there is a condition, it could be specified, may be specified, but in instead of trigger it is not applicable. In instead of trigger, again I am repeating, order of execution is not applicable. So next is length of the varchar and numeric varchar or binary. So it could be, I can say I am supposed to define the size of the data type that I am going to use. In after trigger, it is allowed, and in instead of trigger, it is also allowed. So if I am going to discuss about the function that is based on text, that is, it could be image column reference in inserted and deleted table. Then in after trigger, it is not allowed, but in instead of trigger, it is allowed. So next is I am going to discuss about CLR trigger. CLR trigger. So what is CLR trigger basically? It could be either an after trigger or it could be an instead of trigger. So a CLR trigger can also be a DDL trigger. Instead of executing a transaction SQL stored procedure, a CLR trigger execute one or more methods written in the managed code that are members of an assembly that is created in the .NET framework and uploaded in the SQL server. So you are supposed to write down about CLR trigger, what is the basic function behind the same. Again, I am repeating, it could be either after trigger or it could be instead of trigger. So it could be based on the DDL trigger. And what happens actually in CLR trigger, instead of executing a transaction that is SQL stored procedure, a CLR trigger execute one or more methods written in the managed code that are members of an assembly that is created in .NET framework, and it could be uploaded in SQL server. So this is about CLR server trigger. So what I have discussed so far is DML triggers, active triggers instead of triggers, and a little bit about CLR trigger. So if you are having any query regarding same, you can ask me. I am giving you a time of 1 minute. So next I am going to discuss about PL SQL. What is PL SQL? You are supposed to learn about PL SQL, that is procedural language SQL trigger. So that is the basic, I can say, practical operation of the PL SQL statements. So what is PL SQL? What are the practical aspects of the PL SQL that I am going to discuss in today's lecture. So what is basically PL SQL? So first you are supposed to learn the same. What is PL SQL? As the name implies, PL SQL, procedural language SQL. So what is PL SQL? It is a block structured language that enables developers to combine the power of SQL with the procedural statements. We are using procedural statements with the help of the SQL statements. Now, what is procedural language? Procedural language in which various rules are being followed, in which it is also specified that what to do and how to do. So that is why it is procedural language. If we are supposed to produce a particular result in the DBMS, then we are given with the method that we are supposed to follow. These types of instructions or these types of queries could be raised in order to attain that desired result. So that is the plus point of PL SQL, that we are given with how to do the same. So I am going to discuss about the same. It is a block structured language that enables developers to combine the power of SQL with procedural statements, and all the statements of a block are passed to Oracle engine all at once. I am again saying all the statements of the particular block are passed to the Oracle engine all at once, because it is a block based language, block structured language. So all the block will be executed. How many statements are there in the block? That could not matter. But a block is passed to the Oracle engine all at once, and which increase the processing speed and decrease the traffic. So what are the various disadvantages of the same? That is, SQL does not provide the programmers with the technique of condition checking. In addition, looping and branching. So that is why it is the major disadvantage of SQL. Second point is SQL statements are passed to Oracle engine. Okay, they are passing to the Oracle engine at a time, at one at a time, with increased traffic and decreased speed. Third is SQL has no facility of error checking during manipulation of data. So these are the main three disadvantages. But what are the features that are more? You are supposed to have a look at the same. What is the feature of PLSQL? That is, it is basically a procedural language that we already know. It provides the functionality of decision making, iteration, and many more features of procedural programming language. Second point is it can execute a number of queries in one block using single command, that we have already discussed in the beginning. Third main point of concern is one can create a PL SQL unit, such as it could be a procedure, function, it could be a package, it could be a trigger, and types which are stored in the database for reuse by applications. Fourth point is PL SQL provide a feature to handle the exception which occurs in PL SQL block known as exception handling block. Fifth point is applications written in PL SQL are portable to computer hardware or operating system where Oracle is operational. And sixth point is PL SQL offer extensive error checking that we have already discussed. Integrity domain, in which we are supposed to use the foreign key. So next is what is the difference between SQL and PL SQL. So that we are supposed to discuss what is the difference between SQL and PL SQL. So if I am talking about SQL, it is a single query that is used to perform DML operations and DDL operations. If I am talking about PL SQL, what could be the case? It is a block of code. It is a single query, it is a block of code that is used to write the entire program blocks, procedures, or function. SQL is a declarative that defines what needs to be done rather than how things need to be done. But it defines, PL SQL is a procedural that defines how the things need to be done. So third is SQL. If I'm talking about SQL, it executes a single statement, and PL SQL execute a whole block. If I am talking about SQL, it mainly used to manipulate the data. PL SQL is used to create an application. If I am talking about SQL, then it cannot contain PL SQL code in it. But PL SQL is the extension of the SQL, so it is an extension of the SQL. It can contain SQL inside it. So this is the main difference between the two, and it is the important difference. You can mark this question as important. Now the question comes to my mind that what could be the PL SQL block consist of? I am talking about block again and again, and that is true in PL SQL. So what is that block? What is it consist of? Or how does it comprise of? So PL SQL extends SQL by adding constructs found in the procedural language that are resulting in the structural language that is more powerful than SQL. So the basic unit in PL SQL is a block of code. So all PL SQL programs are made up of blocks which can be nested. That is a block within the block. It could be nested within each other. So what is the main SQL block consist of? It could be consist of four parts. First is declare anything, then to begin anything, then if there could be any exception, then we are supposed to handle the same, and in the if there is a beginning, then there is a end. If there is a declaration, then there is a exception as well. So these are the four main points that are concerned with the PL SQL block. So next I'm going to discuss about each one by one. So typically each block performs a logical action, obviously. Sorry. Each block performs a logical action in the program, and a block has 4 points, or I can say structure. There is a structure for the block, and I am supposed to define those 4 points. The first one is declare. What to declare? Obviously, statements could be declared with the help of semicolon. Begin. What could I begin? Executable statements that are to be executed. Exception. If there we encounter any kind of exception, then we are supposed to handle the same. So next is end. We are supposed to mark the end. If we have begin some code, then there could be some end with the same. So declaration section starts with the declare keyword, in which variables, constants, records as cursors can be declared, which stores data temporarily. It basically consists of the definition of PL SQL identifiers. So this part of the code is optional, that is declaration part. So next is execution section. It starts with the begin and ends with end keyword. So it is the mandatory part, or I can say mandatory section, and the program logic is written to perform any task. It could be like loops, it could be in the form of conditional statements, and it supports DML languages, DDL commands, DML commands, and SQL star plus built-in function as well. So next is exception. What is exception section? It starts with the exception keyword. So it is optional section which contains statements that are executed when a runtime error occurs. So any exception can be handled in this section, that is exceptional section. So next I am going to discuss about various PL SQL identifiers. So what are those? It could be first variables. There are several PL SQL identifiers. It could be variables, it could be constants, it could be procedures, it could be cursor, it could be triggers. So first of all, I am going to discuss about variables. So what is variable? Like any other programming language, variables in PL SQL must be declared prior to its use. So they should have a valid name and data type as well. For example, variable name, data type, not null is equal to value. So it could be defined as other variables are defined in other programming languages. So next main point of concern regarding variables are it could be to initialize the variable. That is, the variables could also be initialized just like in other programming languages. So it could be initialized like variable 1 integer which is equal to 2. Next is concerned with displaying the output. The output are displayed using DBMS output, which is built-in package that enables the user to display output, debug the information, send messages from PL SQL block, subprograms, packages, and triggers. So third is we are supposed to use comments. It could be single line comment, it could be multi-line comment. If I'm going to use single line comment, then dash dash we are supposed to use. If multi-line, then slash star, then comment, then star slash. Next is we are supposed to take input from the user. So just like any other programming language, PL SQL can also take input from the user and store it in the variable. Next is PL SQL execution environment. If I am talking about PL SQL, it means PL SQL engines reside in the Oracle engine. PL SQL engine resides in the Oracle engine. So the Oracle engine can process not only the single SQL statement but also block of many statements. So the call to Oracle engine needs to be made only once to execute any number of SQL statements, and if these SQL statements are bundled inside the PL SQL block. So this was all about your today's lecture, that is in which we have discussed about triggers. Three types of triggers have been discussed. Four types of triggers have been discussed. In addition, I have discussed about PL SQL, what is the difference between SQL and PL SQL, and what would be the various types that we are going to use in PL SQL. It could be variables, it could be constants, it could be single line comment, it could be multi-line comment. So this was all about my today's lecture. If you are having any query, I am giving you a time of 1 minute. You can ask me any query. Have a look at all the slides that have been discussed so far. Trigger parts. So next, in the last, there are advantages that have been given. So we are supposed to look at the same. Advantages could be automatically generate virtual column values. Yes. Second is log events. It is concerned with the log events. Third, to gather statistics on table access. Fourth, to modify the table data when DML statements are issued against views. Fifth is to enforce referential integrity when child and parent table are on different nodes of the distributed database. In addition, publish information about database events, user events, SQL statements to subscribing applications. Next is prevent DML operations on the table after regular business hours. These are the advantages that we have discussed already when we are studying about thoroughly about the PL SQL. lecture. Next is to prevent invalid transactions. Next is enforce complex business or referential integrity rules that you cannot define with constraints. So this was all about my today's lecture. If you are having any query, I am giving you a time of 1 minute. Have a look at all the slides that have been discussed so far, because it is quite a practical subject and you are supposed to, you would not be able to do the same if you are not supposed to do the practicals. So have a look at all the slides that have been discussed so far. In addition, a reference book is given for you. That is a book by course that is available in the college library. Get it issued from the library and have a look at the same. So again, I am giving you a time of 1 to 2 minutes. Have a look at all the slides that have been discussed so far. Again, I am summarizing my lecture, what I have discussed today. First, it was about triggers. What is basically a trigger? Then various four types of triggers have been discussed. Four types of triggers have been discussed: after trigger, instead of trigger, CLR trigger, and DML triggers. In addition, I have discussed about SQL statements, PL SQL statements, what is the difference between SQL and PL SQL statement, and there was a little bit about programming concepts in PL SQL, how we can use variables, how we can use multi-line comments, how we can use single line comments, what would be the symbol for the same, and in addition, how we can use the concept of initializing variables. So these are various concepts that have been discussed and last advantages of the using PL SQL. So this was all about my today's lecture. Now you are supposed to do a quiz. Quiz is given here. Have a look at the same. 10 questions are given for your reference, and you are supposed to do 10 questions and submit me the answers via my email ID. And each question is having four options, and you are supposed to select any one option. Have a look at all the questions. 10 questions are there. Take a snapshot, and you are supposed to submit me the answers at the end of the lecture. I am scrolling it. Just have a look at the same. Have a look at all the questions. So it was all about my today's lecture. Have a nice day. Thank you.